Hey guys, Rods Over Bricks here, wanting to show you guys a couple of different types of suspensions today. This one here, the first one I'm going to show you, does require a trip to the hardware store. What you're looking to get is a couple little springs like this, and pardon that my hands are a wreck. I was working on a 73 Pontiac Grandville today, doing some carburation work and new exhaust manifold gaskets. Anyways, so this is your typical independent front suspension, or rear. You know, it's equal length upper and lower control arms. And this suspension here is quite easy to adapt. What we've got going on is a coil spring on the back. It is a little bit offset from the two control arms. As you can see, it's off to the side. We have our upright right here. And all it does is just keeps the tire nice and vertical as it goes through the suspension cycle. You can see it has its pivoting points in the bottom and the top right over here. And just like when we have weight on it with the car, it does that. Now the spring being inboard like it is right here gives it a motion ratio. So let's say that this spring is pivoting from 50% between where the upright pivots and the lower control arm or upper, depending on how the spring is mounted, from where it mounts to the chassis. If it's directly in the middle of these 2 points, half an inch here actually means an inch over here. So that's why this spring is only able to move maybe 3/4 of an inch, but the tire itself is able to move maybe an inch and an eighth or so. And that's called your motion ratio. But what if you guys want steering with this? Now it's actually quite simple. So we take the tire off. Now let's just picture that we changed this piece out so it looks like that one, okay? So we're going to split the upright. And over here, I have this whole piece. Now we're just going to slide that over there, that right there. And then that's what this whole piece is for. We're going to go ahead and put our little ball joint over there. So now we have that, but now we need some way to push and pull it from elsewhere in the vehicle. So now we have that, but not only that, but now it can cycle through the suspension. Here, let's see if I can get a good hold of it. Now we can cycle through the suspension, and it steers. Now here, I'm going to put the tire on, give you guys a better show of it. And there we go, independent front suspension with steering. And let's see if I can get it lined up into the camera. There is almost zero bump steer because, let's see here. This is your tie rod, your inner tie rod end, your outer, and see how its angle is about the same as that and this one down here. If all three of these lines are parallel and all their distances, all their joints from left to right are about the same, then you won't get a whole bunch of steering as the suspension cycles. You can still see a little bit here, just like that, but not enough to make any kind of big difference. Anyways, that's independent suspension with steering, easily added, easily adapted. No real special parts needed, except for some of the rod locks if you want it to be quite strong. It does have the little ball joints and the little hinge pieces down here, and of course a 50-cent spring from the hardware store. Now let's say you don't feel like running to the hardware store, you don't have very many of these hinges, so they're all taken up in other projects. I'll show you guys a really, really simple suspension. Behold, the mighty leaf spring. I think we've had it since I think the Egyptians were the first to have, thrones on a leaf spring type thing. I could be wrong there, but that's something I remember hearing about at least. So if it's on the internet, it must be true, because you heard it from me. All right, I'm getting some mixed results on when they were first invented, but it did look like the Egyptians were the first ones to come up with this whole design. Anyways, let me take the wheels off. And all we have with a leaf spring is essentially a big semi-elliptic spring, and in this case, it's the flexible, non-rigid connect rods. Now, being that they're in a big arch and we're going to compress it, something needs to happen. being that this is arched and it'll soon be on its way to being flat, it's going to lengthen itself. That's where the shackle comes in, which is over here on the left. And you'll see as I cycle the suspension, the shackle gets longer. And inversely, if I pull down on it, shackle gets shorter, longer, shorter, longer. What's really nice about leaf springs is that you don't have to have really any special parts. I know that these flexi rods come in a lot of kits. So there's really nothing at all needed here that's special, but it's kind of fun. I mean, you get quite a bit of suspension travel, good articulation. And it's quite easy to build. I think in a future video, I might show you guys how to adapt steering to a straight axle like this. But I really enjoy the leaf springs. They're just super simple to make. They're quite resilient. You know, especially without using any rod locks. They hold together quite well. So, if you guys want a suspension, don't feel like running out to the hardware store, or don't have very many of these kind of more rare or discontinued parts, just a handful of those gray clips and a few flexi rods, and what you will have is a very rugged suspension that's been in use, at least in the automotive industry, since the very beginning. And that's all I have for you guys today. I hope you enjoyed, and don't forget to like and subscribe. It would mean the world to me, and I'll see you guys on the next one.